I am the person who is intentional, or am I just going to be intentional about this act? You have to become the person who says, that's what I do. That's who I am. And as soon as you make that switch in neuroplasticity, time, work, patience, effort, that's when all of a sudden you'll say, why was this so hard before? Like it just flows from me now because that's who you are. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mind Muscle Connection. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Tyler Wiebe. And at the time of this recording, it is New Year's, and it feels like we have been away for about a month or so because I had a good, solid holiday season, some facility move issues, that kind of thing. As you may see, the background's a little different. But Tyler came at me with a great topic, and I'm going to just go to you right away here, Tyler, because when we talk about the process of intentional change, and I'm talking at the core of who you are, your identity, what you want to do, it's a New Year's thing. I mean, and this is the time of year that all the psychologists are on talk shows and everybody's talking about this. And I, what I want to do is really get down to the psychological core of what it is, what it takes, why it's very, very difficult. And then I'll certainly share one of my most useful tools, and that's what I think brought this to your attention, Tyler, something that you wanted to cover a little bit here. But when you get down to change, one of the things that I made a post about this week was most people attack it as what we do. And that's why we make resolutions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to spend more time doing this. I'm going to spend less time doing that. Do. And in fact, I'll bring up some research in a little bit. It's who we are, and it's who we think we are, and it's how we change that core identity from which those actions and hopefully successes flow. So, with that said, Tyler, I know you engaged with me in a little bit of an exercise and kind of preparing for 2023. So, I just want to hear what your thoughts are and how you're approaching some of the changes that you want to make.
This literally came to me just on Monday during one of your sessions that you hold, the Coaching Connect, because this year had been a lot on my mind, and last couple of years there has been a lot of personal growth, a lot of personal challenges, that I've been going through, and so as I was just coming into the new year, especially with prep starting for myself, there was just a lot of thought around who I want to be, how do my actions align with who I am. And so, when we were talking about, this on Monday, and you kind of mentioned, hey, like, you like to use, just one word, right? Because to allude to kind of what you were saying, it is so hard to make those personal changes. And so, to be able to just focus on one thing a year. And it was kind of just like instantaneous where this word came to me, and that was just being intentional, with my actions. And I think that had been something that, like, I had been stewing on for so long and didn't quite have, a word for it until you kind of mentioned this, and that popping into my head. And it was just an agglomeration of just, I think, all of this work that I've been putting in over the last couple of years of going to therapy, figuring out who I am, why I do the things that I do, from things in my life that I've experienced, and how that's kind of manifested itself in my life. And so it was just really a bit of an aha moment of, like, I'm tired of forgive my French. I'm tired of being I'm tired of not attacking my life in the way that I know I should be attacking it, and should be intentional. And what was happening is I was just kept getting caught in this circle of, like, just doing the same shit over and over and over again. And it was just like, I just like fed up with it, right? And I think we all reach that point where it's what's the hierarchy of making a change, right? It's an idea, and then you reach a certain point where, you're starting to build up towards it. And then it's like you have that aha moment. And then like that's where change kind of really starts to happen. And I think it just kind of finally accumulated to that point. And the decisions, I was making, with certain areas of my life were, not living out to what I knew I could be, what I can be, and what I want to be. And so, yeah, it was just, that word, I think intentional, just kind of covers that whole basis of, going into every day and looking at every decision and is this an intentional decision? Am I being intentional with my time? Does this align with who I am, what I want, and what I want to do? And so that was, I think a really big one for me, and just an accumulation or a bit of a tipping point of 5-6 years of therapy of working through a lot of things and really internalizing a lot. So yeah, I don't know what is the point of sharing this on this podcast other than like I think just being open and sharing our struggles and our growth as human beings, because yeah, like again, like you said, it's such a hard thing to do, but I think when we see other people striving towards that, from myself, I always see like you, Joe, you're always pushing yourself, and that's a motivating factor. And I think part of it is can we motivate, can we be intentional with sharing our experience, and that again might click with somebody else. Like again, just on Monday, like just all of a sudden it kind of all fell into place, and yeah, I think it was a pretty powerful thing. And now it's something that I've got written down, and I'm looking at every single day and analyzing, is this in line with what I know I can want, all of that kind of stuff.
So there's always a content and a process piece to change and communication and almost everything that we do externally in life. And I want to come back to the content part, which is your word intentional and why. But on the process side, you said, you struggled with this and then suddenly it just kind of fell in place. It clicked. And to me, that's very indicative of how neuroplasticity works. It takes 6 to 9 to 12 months for you to ruminate on a thought and for you to sift through it enough and for it to permeate your subconscious for you to finally say, oh, I got it. Like something makes literal sense now. So first, you should be patient with change, which is why I limit myself to one change a year. And of course, I'm probably refining and adjusting and fine tuning my life in many ways. But I look at, because I remember when I was first started my business, I was 27 years old. This goes back close to 30 years ago. And I remember I would sit down, January 1st was a monumental day for me. And I would have this huge list. Here's what I'm going to accomplish this year. And I would have all these things, and that would go up on my bulletin board. And now I'm, a little bit wiser, I hope. And I know, okay, it's going to come down to what's the most important thing I want to work on. And now I know, because of that neurobiology, that it's going to take a full year for this to really take hold. So I better make it good. I hope I make the right choice. And it's got to be something I really want to tackle. So there are a lot of reasons why I think you chose that word intentional. I think it's very foundational. When I first started doing this exercise myself, coming down to one word, the first year I did it, my word was opportunity, which at its core has some of those same fundamental principles of intentional. And I did it for this reason. I just got so sick, and I still am, of hearing people say, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. What are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. Everybody's so busy. Somebody even today emailed me back after, something happened. She goes, well, I know we're all busy these days. I'm like, no, I don't want to be that guy who says I'm busy. And I also don't want to delay work. I don't want to look at asks or tasks as some laborious thing that I detest. So I decided every single thing that I, quote, have to do, I'm going to relabel as opportunity, look at this opportunity. Oh, the garbage is full at 10 o'clock at night. I have the opportunity to take it to the curb and get it out of the house. Maybe that's an example to my kids of taking action, whatever, but it's an opportunity to act, and positive things spring from even something that minute. And so that really did create a lot of intentionality under what I was doing. But coming back to just that with you, I would love to hear, because you rooted it in the fact that you've been working, you've been going to therapy, you've been thinking, and you've been working on self-development. What part of focusing an entire year on intentionality do you think is most important? What's you used your French word there, and so I'm assuming you want to push yourself to accomplish things. I'm tired of being that person who doesn't get it done. So at the end of this year, what do you hope this year to have been?
I don't, yeah, I think accomplishment in the fact of, having a better understanding of what I consider, truly important to me in my life, and not just, putting it on the back burner, if you will, or doing the bare minimum of, just getting by. And I played around with kind of opportunity as well, because I did like that idea, and the way you brought it. And and you kind of talk about, the new year and how we write all these things down. And I've done that in the past, and it's never worked for me. And so I think it's one of those things too, where, having this broad term, it almost kind of covers now all of these, small goals that I have, or, small, big, with work, with my family life, with myself, with Steph, with my daughter, with my health and fitness and things like that. And I think what that kind of truly does for myself is, when I'm in that moment of, okay, I need to make a decision here on, again, just even minute decisions, I have that now of, does this align with my internal person, and what I want to be? And so, specifically, what does that look like? I mean, we can, possibly we can get into that if you would like, but I think just in those broad terms, it's holding myself accountable to myself, and truly, I think, again, understanding that. And I think this past year was, again, building up to that, and trying to so desperately do that, but still having these areas in my life that weren't allowing me to fully get there, and fully, I think, realize that. And, it was, we've talked about, Verhickey, and I've been still listening to his podcast, and, in just not having this, parasitic thinking, and just kind of getting caught in this same circle, like, no matter what I seem to do. And so, yeah, it just, yeah, being that accountable to myself, truly accountable to myself. And in the moment of, before last year, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I would still go ahead and do it. And I think, we're only 5 days in, but I've already had moments, and it's like, and then where I'm faced with that decision, and it's like, no, like, enough is enough. I need to be accountable to myself. I need to hold myself to a higher standard.
What would make that easy, like simple, and you would never stumble?
What's that?
I have undoubtedly mentioned this study, but the moral psychology department at Harvard, Dr. Green, did a study, and they used functional MRI so they could look at what's happening in the brain in real time. And they presented ethical dilemmas to patients, and they wanted to see what parts of their brain lit up. And the hypothesis was, if somebody's going to make the right decision, oh my gosh, I want to lose weight. So am I going to make the right decision or wrong? I'm going to eat the donut or not? Or lying or cheating, stealing, just anything that you had a sense of ethical morality obligation to, as you put it, self-accountability. And they thought for sure that they were going to show that the people who had the most activation in the neocortex, meaning you are really thinking, I am contemplating, I'm judging the consequences and so forth. Surely those were the people that would make the best decision every time. Absolutely the opposite. The people whose limbic system, who didn't think, but they felt, they were the ones who made the right decisions. And so this is where this goes. I am the person who is intentional, or am I just going to be intentional about this act? You have to become the person who says, that's what I do. That's who I am. And as soon as you make that switch in neuroplasticity, time, work, patience, effort, that's when all of a sudden you'll say, why was this so hard before? Like it just flows from me now because that's who you are. And it reminds me, because I did a lot of research and writing in parenting. It's why it's so important for families, for parents to do this with kids. You are a Klemzeski. Klemzeskis do this. Klemzeskis don't do that. This is who we are. That's how you show value and character. And if you don't have that same inner self dialogue, I am a person of my word. I'm a person who does this. I, Tyler Wiebe, am intentional. When you get that framework in place, you'll never have a problem with this again.
Yeah. And, I think that's funny that you kind of mentioned that because, it's kind of every time, I've been presented with that, decision, it was something along those lines of like, no, like, you're tired of being that person. You know that. So stop being it. Be intentional. Like you are and have to be intentional. So yeah, I hope that is the path that I am down, and we're not going to lose steam on it again. We're only 5 days into the new year, but yeah.
Remember also, because I said it takes a year, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes patience, and then it's easy. You will fail many times, and all of those failures are down payments on success. Many other social psychology research pieces show counterintuitively that the more you fail, the greater the likelihood of your ultimate success. And so many people think that, man, if I can't get this right, I am just a failure. And it's like, no, keep doing it. As long as you're trying, you are rewiring those parts of your brain, and just like building a train track from the East Coast to the West Coast, when you finally get that last tie in the ground and that wiring neurally is in place, like all of a sudden that information, including behavioral stimuli, that's what flows. You've created those new tracks.
Yeah. And the journey continues.
Well,
but that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we're constantly growing, we're constantly changing, and it's that it is it's like two sides of a coin. On one side, it sucks that it takes so long and that it's hard work, and it can feel like you're spinning your wheels and nothing's going on. But it's like, on the other side, like you said, if you can kind of, keep pushing that, and a year is, this in your lifetime, that change is insurmountable, and it becomes easy, and you're able then to, transcend to another level and another level. And it just continues to build on itself in that momentum, because it's almost like you need to build that foundation, right? Like intentionality. And then you can just kind of continue to find those new rungs that you're able to climb.
Well, and I'll close with this. As I wrote down some of the words, you mentioned that we did this in a coaching session with other people present. One person said that was their word, was presence. I want to make sure I'm fully present in my conversations and relationships. Another person said, I want to build more routine. I'm not being effective. I'm not being intentional. So I need some routine there. Mine for this year is build, because I'm really in this mode where I'm transitioning and changing parts of my business. And I know I have a lot of creative energy and a lot of creative force. And I know I can get done more than 10 normal people, but not if I'm distracted. And so I need to focus on build. And I want to encourage people with this. This is why I said I was going to close with it. Pick something positive. Don't self-flagellate and say, I'm horrible at this, therefore I need to change. Pick something positive that you're working toward. I could have said, don't be distracted, Joe. Instead, I chose the word build. I have these things and one word that I can look at every day. Like you said, it's written on my daily schedule. So I hope that helps, guys. Tyler, I think your story and your struggles that I truly have seen sink your talons into, and I know you have a handle on exactly where you're going and why and the things that you want to change. And that kind of struggle and that kind of frustration is what keeps us in the game. Like, pain is positive. Pain shows us that we want to get out of it and into something better. So I'm happy to be back here. 2023, New Year's, we're going forward. Great stuff. Thanks, Tyler. We will see you guys all next time in the Mind Muscle Connection.